Time for another Brendan Willard podcast from the studios of LEB TV, brought to you by Schaefer's Oil and also by Ozark Harley-Davidson. Well, the Mars Series was up north over the weekend. Let's kind of get a recap on how things went. First, congratulations to Tony Jackson Jr. for his win at Quincy.
Yeah, I hit everything with the lottery over the weekend. We had wow. Friday night, not good. Just made a carburetor mistake. Honestly, we figured that out by the time Saturday rolled around, and then a lot of people made mistakes and just tough. And anyway, we missed the show Friday night, and then Saturday rolled around, a little bit better. Felt like we fixed our problem. You know, we just chose the wrong carburetor, and Vic Hill helped us out a bunch, and so we were able to fix that, and new rolling out in the B, we were locked in. Us in the 38 had the points provisionals, and so I was like, well, we need to try to race our way in. We got to get our car better. And because of the heat race, the track just changed, and so Friday night, you couldn't get enough motor, and it was just eating, like, just so deep in moisture and just bogging your motor down. And then by the time the heat race rolled around, it was blowing dust. So you went from not having any motor to needing restrictors. So we were restricted for the heat race Saturday, and it just went too quick. So and then it was wide open. We couldn't keep up. So then by the time the B feature rolls around, we feel like we got a pretty good car. And that was kind of the theme of Saturday night, I guess. Just somebody on the front row hit a hole, ran out of talent, come across the field, and just wipes 2 or 3 other cars with them. I had the wreck missed, and they kept whoever didn't hold the brake, and it was a wreck. It's just nobody's fault. But anyway, they hit us in the right side door, tore the whole right side door, deck, quarter, everything off the car. Luckily, it was just sheet metal. Problem was, we had rented out our backup to a friend of ours who needed a car, was trying some things, and so Austin Howes was in our car. So which awesome for him. He races his way into the show, and he's like, "Here, take it." I'm like, "No, like, we're fine." Tony Jackson had a spare door. Our spare door, my fault, didn't have it with us. So anyway, stupidity on my end. Borrowed a door off Tony Jackson that a fan had paid for or whatever. So we run this door that some guy had bought. So the right side of the car had a 56 on the door, and our quarter is all messed up. So anyway, kind of a funny moment in the feature. When we got out there, I had went to the infield on a late caution, and I come back out. Well, the scoring is all done from the infield at Davenport. Flag, man, everybody. Well, all they saw was the right side of a 56 in the infield under red. And so there's a yellow, sorry. And so they're like, they're sending 56 tailback. And I'm like, I rolled around. I'm like, he didn't go to the pits. So finally I stopped down there. I'm like, look at my right side door. And then they realized it was me in the pits and not Tony. It was kind of comical for a minute because, they were getting pretty heated over the receiver at him. And I'm like, he was stopping like, I did not go to the pits. And so, pretty funny deal there. But we worked our way up to 14th, I think, 13th, 14th, somewhere in there, and got monster trucked and lost a couple. I don't even know if we lost position. We ran up the racetrack, and my steering got tight or something, and the guy that monster trucked us, I just couldn't get out of his right rear quarter, and somehow he got spun around and sent to the infield. So we got to go to the back together. And anyway, that was is what it is. Like, steering. You monster truck me. Sometimes breaks my steering and I can't turn. And that's done and behind us. So, anyways, Saturday night was not fun. And then coming to the checker, 51 car got bent in front of us, and we smoked a uke tire just to finish the night off, come to the checker. So he got bent, and I tried to stay off him, and I turned down, and when I did, I hit the uke tire. So we knocked the nose, right side, everything. So at that point, we went to the backup car for Sunday, and I completely ran out of talent in qualifying, jumped the cushion, and smoked the fence. And so we got to patch that car back up together and had to start last in the feature Sunday night, and made a few laps and just pulled off and wasn't really going anywhere and just pulled off, and that was it. And one thing that when you're a lap down, we lost a lap early, it was just hammered down on the bottom, and I knew leaders were coming. If you lose a lap, you can't, there's no lucky dog, no getting back in the late lap. At that point, we just pulled off. So, but anyway,
you left a lot of evidence in Davenport and Quincy.
Yeah, I was ready. I was ready to get home. So literally, we hit everything but the lottery. It was not fun. But anyway, we'll move on and head to Brownstown, Illinois on Friday. The weather at Quincy looks terrible on Saturday, and I hope it rains out for obvious reasons now to get home on Saturday. So, but our racing, it is what it is. We got everything fixed, and or we're working on getting everything fixed, and we'll be ready to go to Brownstown, Illinois on Friday night and finish strong there.
$10,000 to win for that race.
Yeah, good racetrack. Josh Carroll's taken a track that was not very popular and not very good and turned it into a really racy, awesome facility and a good place to go race. So we're looking forward to that. Peoria is a great racetrack. I really like going there. If it gets rained out, which looks like it can, we will have our asphalt car ready to go. And we'll come from Brownstown to Lebanon and go race the last race at I-44. So hopefully maybe Peoria will get rained out and that'll work out. But but I-44, we got a lot to talk about there for sure.
Yeah, our hearts are heavy here on the podcast with the passing of Nick Bradshaw, young Charger driver at I-44 Speedway. Had an off-track mishap, and he's gone. And it's tragic what's happened. And our condolences, our prayers go out to Sean and Michaela and Dylan and Ryan for the loss of Nick.
Yeah. It's going to be tough. Nick is giving the gift of life and is an organ donor. And a year ago tomorrow was when my organ donation happened for my mom. So I thought a lot about that. I knew that it was like the 1 year deal coming up, and I've thought a lot about organ donation and everything. And then when I found out the other night that Nick was, I guess last night, that Nick was an organ donor, and I'm like, man, some of these families, it doesn't make it any easier, but everybody, Nick touched everybody. Everybody in the racing world knew Nick for a reason that was kind of stupid, and if anybody else probably would have been mad about it, right? And Nick thought it was funny and laughed about it, and he is very, very well known. And but to sign up for organ donation and do those things, and what he's able to touch more lives than he'd already had. But Nick was, it was dealt a bad hand or life, and then figured out a way to go racing. Michael Jorgensen and everybody modified his race car where he could get in a race car, and watch Rico, and honestly watched Rico Aber, and Rico gave him the hope. And I know they had a friendship there. And every time Rico was around here racing, Nick would always go see him, and you'd always see him getting a picture taken together. And I know there was a relationship there. And he was always happy, never in a bad mood. And instead of obviously he had a lot of issues, and being able to be coordinated enough and would stumble and fall and laugh about it and make everybody laugh to the point of you're almost uncomfortable, but you're he just was happy and just, but the coolest part is he became a racer, and he became one of us. He just became just like everybody else. He was there in the pits every night to win. He raced hard. He won
he won
races, just won a few weeks ago, and fought a lot of, adversity and had some surgeries. I think he basically, I don't know if he even was supposed to be racing, but at that point, like, you got to live your life, and Nick lived his life. Like, it wasn't long, but it was full. And, man, like, what he was able to do, he raced, he won. Like, he won in a race car. He got to experience that feeling of winning, and there's nothing like it. And I just, his family, his mom's so awesome, such a great person, and his whole family, and they've done a lot for a lot of people. And, you just think of all the things that Nick's done and all the people he's touched at I-44. And then you see, Ricky Thornton Jr. sharing his mom's post last night. Like, that's a pretty wide range when you're reaching, national champion, the Lucas Oil champion from last year's, sharing that. He just won the World 100, and he's sharing Nick's post and sharing, about Nick. And, so, Saturday was tough for all of us racing because we're all wondering what's going on with Nick, what happened. People, it was not a racing accident. He didn't wreck his race car. He didn't wreck, he'd had a medical emergency. And so then you're answering questions, and then you're like, I don't care about how or what had happened. You just care about Nick. And then it became very, very going the other way, and you cared about his family and everybody else too, because you knew what they were going through, and it just didn't look good. And, I wasn't there. Hate that I wasn't there for them, but what do you do? And, racers race. That is the one thing that a lot of us will tell people. And, I'm glad Aaron's doing what he's doing Saturday night for Nick. And I know they're, while we're recording this, we really don't know what will be done. We don't know anything. But I know they're doing a big celebration for Nick Saturday night at the races. And, that's going to be a fun night, for everybody.
I believe Michael Jorgensen is getting some T-shirts.
Yes, Michael is going to be racing Nick's car Saturday night too. I know that for a fact. And Michael won in Nick's car last Saturday night, so that was really cool. And so hopefully Michael can win again. And it's just when you race against racers, it's just a huge family. The motorsports world is just one big family. It really is, and we fight together. We love each other, but we fight amongst each other too. And it just, you put everything into the perspective of what's going on. And you race hard. All of us race hard against each other, but we always want what's best for everybody on and off the racetrack. And hard to imagine I-44 without Nick. It's going to be a lot weird and tough. And going to be a different world for sure.
Baseball fans this summer were enamored with the young man at the Cardinals game that was decked out as an umpire, calling balls and strikes. My first time to get acquainted with Nick was when he was doing that at the Lebanon High School games when his brother was playing. Wow. And Nick was in elementary school. He would deck out as an umpire with a face mask and ball bags and call balls and strikes while the game was going on.
That's awesome.
So he made an early positive impact on a lot of local baseball fans doing that. And then he later became a manager for the Lebanon basketball team. And then before you know it, when I was out at the Speedway announcing, I mean, he was competing in the Charger class on the inner track and doing very well. So, as you said earlier, and well stated, a life lived to the fullest, doing what he wanted to do.
Yeah, and that's the one thing. Like, Nick would want everybody to live your life. Do what you can, and don't leave anything on the table. And he didn't. He did not. And what a loss. But
something like that really hits the racing community, doesn't it?
It does.
Not just the community in general, because The community is going to be in mourning for sure, but especially the racing community, I think.
It does, and it's just you just don't think of that happening, and then just like when we lost Steve Holt over the winter, you just don't think the guys that are racing out there, you're going to see them every week, and you get there and then they're not there, and you're like, weird, and just and the Charger guys are going to have a hard time this week. They're going to have a really hard time because they're going to line up and Nick's not going to be there. And, but he did so many good things though, raising awareness for dwarfism and hopefully I use that term correctly, but just, he raised awareness there and did a lot. And he could have not done anything. He could have just went about his life and been unhappy and scared of people making fun of him or not wanting to be pointed out and not want the attention that he got. And instead, he did the exact opposite. And not only did he make his own life better, but he made other people's lives better. And I hope that he's always remembered for that. I just joked around with him. I'm like, dude, that stupid video at Dallas County. And this is what's wild about Nick. Like, everybody saw that video on TikTok, or I think that's where it was at. And then and Nick laughed about it. Well, I'll never forget the guys that rented the racetrack that did the SRL race at I-44. They're from California. And Nick comes riding up on the same scooter at the top of the hill at I-44, and the guy's double taking. And it took me a minute, and I'm like, looking at it, I'm like, and I introduced him to Nick or whatever, and he's like, man, he goes, I have seen that guy before. I'm like, well, I was like, see a video of a guy in the pits on a scooter crashing? Yes. And I'm like, holy cow, you're from California and so, and like everybody. And when we were at the races Saturday night, like everybody knew who he was in the pits at Davenport, a lot of random people that we're racing with, and they knew I-44, they knew something was going on at the racetrack, and then we're like, well, it was this guy, it was Nick, and they're like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. And, he's so just smiling and happy, and, he raced, and that was a cool part. And like you said, the racing community, it's a bigger loss than anybody's ever going to realize the impact. You'll never be able to put an impact on that. And just everybody he touched, he left a lasting impression. So, to his family, we're praying for you, and definitely going to make sure his memory continues on. And I know they're going to, like, there's no words or anything you can say to make it better. But you can always do your best to remember Nick and do the best you can. And cool part for them is there's a lot of pictures and videos of him racing. I mean, lots of my Facebook feed today, it went from Charlie Kirk to Nick Bradshaw starting Saturday. And, it's been a tough week for our country, and then it's just hit even home even harder here. So we get to, cool part is we live in the Midwest, so we don't have the outside distractions in the, I want to say real world. We're almost sheltered to the real world. In our little world, we go to a dirt or an asphalt track every week, and we're our own little world, and we're very blessed to have that. And when you lose somebody, it makes it tougher, but it also reminds you of how strong the racing community is and how blessed we are to live in. I mean, we live in the greatest country in the world, and we get to live in, in my opinion, the greatest state of the world, because everybody here that's old school, right? Your life is kind of like the Andy Griffith Show still around here, and it's not like the hustle and bustle of New York City or Washington, D.C., and it's just, it's great that we live where we do, and it's great that we are able to go to, able to go to Illinois, able to go to Lebanon I-44 Speedway Saturday night, and if you're in Lebanon or around the area Saturday, make sure you're there, and if there's any way possible for us to be there, we will be too.
Yep. Austin Hoppy, Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, he did win the big rig race at I-44 on Saturday.
So now I got to get on my research hat on that, because Brian Hoppy was a great awesome race car driver. It's got to be some relation because he raced back in the Argo days and then NASCAR Midwest Tour days. So from there, so obviously some relation there. So kind of cool. Probably that family's probably won another race there. Pretty sure Brian won in the Galding 51 car back in the day at I-44. If he didn't, he put on a hell of a show for the win. Was Carlson. I'll never forget that race. So that's kind of cool that happened. And the crowd Saturday night at I-44 was spectacular. They had pretty much everything could go wrong for a promoter. Did go wrong for Aaron that night. You had an event in your whole life, or you're not even concentrating on the races at that point, and then the rain comes and everything else came. But awesome to see a great turnout. I know that they're planning on having that again next year. And Jimmy Phone won the late model feature. Good for Jimmy. They've been working pretty hard on trying to get some stuff figured out in their car, and he's worked hard and made his race car fast and beat two good guys and Dylan in the 82 car. So with Presley Johnson in town, and he did a good job. So hats off to them. That's a big win for them, and kind of helps make an exclamation point on his season. I think it's his third win. So
Josh Hazel of Waynesville, he won the Crown Vic feature. 19
Crown Vics. Awesome turnout again on those. Looked like it was a good feature too. Saw some highlights of it. It was an awesome race. And then I don't know how Michael Jorgensen was able to hold it together and win that Charger feature.
Yeah, he won the street stock and as you said, drove Nick's car in the Charger.
Swept the night. So good for Michael, and selfishly hope he does it again Saturday and sweeps both of them again. Michael and Nick were inseparable and got a lot together. So I know how much Nick meant to Michael's kids and everybody, and just really happy he won, and praying for him. He's going through a lot right now.
Well, prayers to the Lebanon community, the racing family, and the Bradshaws. Our thoughts and sympathies are with you at this very difficult time, and we will never forget Nick Bradshaw.
No, and everybody will be there racing this weekend. Everybody that's been around Nick will be racing because of him this weekend, and he'll never be forgotten, and we will... Nick would want everybody racing. You know, he would want that. And he was a racer. And I think that's what the coolest part for him was, is he wasn't looked at as anything but a racer when he's at the racetrack. And proud of that for him. And just is a blessing to know him. And we're thinking about him and his family. And we'll go race Brownstown and Friday night, and then hope that it rains in Peoria and we make our way back to Lebanon and find our way back here for him and his family and be there for them. So appreciate everybody tuning in, and appreciate all of our helpers and supporters and everybody, and just ask everybody, please pray for Nick's family and pray for the families that he's blessing with his organs today, and hopefully all those procedures go wrong or go great. Nothing goes wrong in those procedures, and everything goes well.
Safe travels. Good luck this weekend.
We'll need it.
That'll do it for this edition of the Brendan Willard Podcast. I'm Kevin Stubblefield. It's been brought to you by Ozark Harley Davidson and by Schaefer's Oil from the studios of LEB TV.